Cheers, Mama.
Cheers.
And let me welcome all of you back to New World Old Soul. We were gone, at least I was gone last week. We took the week off. We have topics we want to be discussing here today. One of them being that we reached a personal milestone in our journey with coming here to Idaho. It's a personal achievement, I guess you could say, right? Something to take pride in. We've been here for 4 years now, working on building our own personal American dream. We wanted to talk about others who are bringing this up because it's become a very hot topic on social media. The fact that the American dream for many people seems to be somewhat out of reach, out of touch. Before we get to that, however, we lost Kenji last week. And if you are familiar with good, what it is that we do over on the Good Simple Living side of things, Kenji's been a huge part of our personal life story for the last 14 years that we've had him, even prior to our YouTube days. And we released the video yesterday over there that we recorded the day of his passing. It was highly, highly emotional. And we want to thank you guys for just the messages of support that you sent our way, the well wishes. We really, really appreciate it. And last week was a tough week.
It was. Yeah. We needed that week just to spend time with the kids and the family. That was rough. We have only ever had one dog for the entirety of our relationship and our children's lives. It's just been Kenji. He was the top dog. He was the only dog. And so we miss him terribly. And it was a really, really rough week, but we are getting better. I think today and yesterday we were able to tell a lot of funny stories and laugh and kind of start making little jokes about Kenji and stuff and just feeling a little bit more back to normal and a little bit better about it. But it's going to be sad for a while.
Yeah, it's absolutely a process, and it really has been for us. The first couple of days following his no longer being around were really tough.
Yeah.
We all kept mentioning that we thought we were seeing him and hearing him, and Kenji was always around. So this has been an interesting experience for us. I don't want to get emotional about it again because now in real time.
We'll start again. We appreciate all the well wishes, but we have to.
Yeah, now in real time. It's been about a week and a half since his passing, and it's been a real roller coaster. But again, just want to express our gratitude to all of you out there, and really to Kenji for the amazing 14 years that we had with him. He was such a great dog, and so many good memories that we will take, for the remainder of our lives of him. But just wanted to touch upon that before jumping into our topic for the day. Which, again, like I mentioned, is the pursuit of the American dream. And the reason that this came up here in our household is this is something that we have devoted ourselves to really for almost the entirety of our adult life. But more recently, like I said, on social media, there have been a number of people that have been making videos that, people who are relatively close to us in age, if not the same age that we currently are, which is age 40. And they have been making mention of the fact that it's just really tough, despite having done what they were convinced was the right thing for their entire lives, following this scripted suggestion of working really hard in school, graduating, excelling in your field of study, moving on to a professional career. Despite checking all of those boxes along the way, given the current state of affairs in our country, it is really difficult to own a home, to start a family, and to thrive and do well. So we thought we'd touch upon that, given just our own personal experience with trying to make this work for ourselves over the last 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah, and it's not just us. A lot of stuff that I've been noticing online is there's people that are retired that are on a fixed income that are also struggling with it, saying, what the hell happened? We did everything right, and now this is where we find ourselves. And then there's also young people that are feeling really hopeless about it. Actually, like depression and anxiety and hopelessness is at an all-time high for people under 25. You're at the start of your life. I remember being that age and you're like, the world is my oyster, everything's possible. And really thinking, I can achieve these things. I can buy the house and the car and have the 2.5 kids. And I mean, I had plans to have like 12 kids, and then, like the dog and the picket fence and the green grass and all that. But now young people are feeling like, I can't have those things. I'm never going to own a car outright. I'm never going to be able to buy a house. I'm never going to be able to afford to have children.
We bought our first home at age 23. Mm-hmm. Correct? Was I 22? No, I was 23.
23, yeah.
Which nowadays seems like that's no longer occurring. You don't see people in their early 20s owning homes. Do you think that the American dream is dead?
I think the American dream, the Leave It to Beaver American dream, the way that the Cleavers lived and all of that, I think that is dead with the path that used to work to achieve it, but that it's not dead.
What do you mean by that?
I think that it used to be, well, it was. It's not that I think it. In 1960, you used to graduate. If you went to college, that was like, wow, you're going to college.
Right.
So if you went to college, that was a bonus. But you were able to, as a married man or as a man, get married relatively young, get a job in an office where you wear a suit, or you could be a furniture salesman or a car salesman or sell insurance. You could have a very middle-class job. Mm-hmm. And your wife could stay home and you could have 2 or 3 or 4 children, have your family vehicle. And that was achievable with a middle-class job.
Right.
And now I think if you attempted that exact same thing with the exact same path, you wouldn't be able to afford what they were able to afford in 1960 or 1970.
I would say it's much more difficult to do now. It doesn't mean that it's impossible,
Right.
but you do have to get creative. I feel like that has definitely been the case for us over the years. Single income household, working a very middle class job, making a decent salary, but again, as a family of 6, with a mortgage, with a rental property, with a car payment at one point in time, it required that we get very, very creative and make a number of sacrifices. These are things that we've referenced time and time again here, especially on the podcast. But I think that rings truer today, even more so. You have to make pretty extraordinary leaps and sacrifices in your own personal life if you are ever going to get ahead and have a chance at living whatever it is that for yourself you view and think of as being your own personal American dream.
Well, I think the flaw lies in the blueprint. This is how you achieve this American dream. It's an old recipe and it no longer works. It no longer rises in the oven. So
like, baking analogy.
Yeah. So nothing rises in the oven for me. I'm a terrible baker. I should not use baking analogies. But I think that the school systems and our generation parenting, because it's what we were told, you graduate high school, you don't get married really young, you go to college, you graduate with a bachelor's in something, you get married, then you buy a house, then you start having kids after you've enjoyed, there's like this recipe. They say that if you graduate high school, you don't have a child out of wedlock, and basically don't use drugs, like then you can achieve the American dream.
Have you seen some of these videos that I'm talking about on your Instagram or Facebook or anything like that? Some of these, the ones that I've seen have been reels of people that are maybe in their early 30s. One in particular I'm thinking of was a male, the other was a female. They were both in their vehicle, ironically, outside of their job, and they were venting to directly.
That's the trend right now. It's like sit in your vehicle outside of your job.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're sitting out there and they're venting their frustrations about the fact that, hey, I've done everything right my entire life, everything that I was told and instructed to do. I excelled in school. I took on, I think the female was actually a teacher, ironically enough. So she now is in a position to where she's having these same discussions with the upcoming youth, these 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. And now they're looking to her as a mentorship role, you could say. And I'd be curious in those conversations, what it is that she would have to say, how it is that she would guide these kids, given her own personal experience, because she was saying, hey, I've been a teacher. I'm not making great money. I am renting an apartment. She may have even had roommates. I don't recall specifically, but she basically expressed that despite, having done well and doing everything that has ever been asked of her or recommended to her, she was really struggling. And I get where she's coming from, but I would say that personally, the American dream is alive and well. It just requires a lot more of you now than it did once upon a time.
Yeah. It just, like I said, it's just that original blueprint doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work in today's world with inflation and the rising cost of everything. College used to be affordable, and now college is ridiculously priced.
Yeah.
You didn't used to graduate with a bachelor's degree and then have to pay off that loan for 20 years. That's all relatively new.
Times have changed. Things have changed. I think a lot of these 16, 17, 18-year-old kids now are willingly electing not to go to college because it doesn't make sense so oftentimes. Are there examples of people who go and have it reap tremendous rewards? Sure. Professionally, financially, absolutely. But I think you're finding that it's becoming much more mainstream to deter kids from going unless they absolutely have to, given the career field that they choose for themselves.
Well, I think our generation is pushing our children into college because we were pushed into college. It was just what you did. And if you weren't going to college, the question always when we were graduating was, where are you going to college?
Right. It was a given. It was yes.
Not are you?
Heavy emphasis was placed upon it, especially for people our age.
Yeah. So when I graduated from college, I had quite a few scholarships, but I still had to live. And I was taking 25 credits a semester. I was trying to get out of there as affordably as comfortable, as I could.
As comfortable as possible.
Yeah. So it was really, really difficult. That's kind of how my brain was at the time. I was trying to do a double major in 3 years because I couldn't afford, and my scholarships were running out for that senior year. So I had to borrow money just to live, just pay for the dorm and the meal plan and things like that. So
who'd you borrow your money from?
At the time I was borrowing it, they were federally backed loans through probably Fannie Mae. And at the time, I don't know when Fannie Mae became a private.
Fannie Mae was dishing out student loans back in the day?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there were all these federally backed loans, and they had lower interest rates.
Right.
But the interest rates still weren't very low. They were still about, I want to say they were probably about 6%. And I think they're more upwards of 8% now in 2023. But then if you got
it's 2024, but go ahead.
Well, the 2023 was the...
Okay, I apologize.
It was the numbers that I saw. Yeah, it was like a chart. But this year, I have no idea what student loans are because...
My assumption would be that it's gone up, but who knows?
I don't know.
Interest rates for homes.
Yeah, so...
Your mortgage rates have skyrocketed tremendously, which is a big part of people's frustrations.
Yeah, it's crazy, but the rates for homes have gone up a lot this year and last year. But 2023 was a huge year of inflation and interest rates rising. So I know that the student loans went up like 2%, even for the federally backed loans. But I believe Fannie Mae may be privately owned now. And with those loans come with an even higher interest rate. It's just an industry now.
Correct.
Loan these young people money, make them think they have to go here. Then they need the money to do it. Give them these loans. It was so easy to do. You could literally walk up to this counter, fill out a form, and then you would go and pick up this loan check. 48 hours later, 72 hours later, it was such easy money. And you didn't have to prove anything. I'm like, how can you just loan me $10,000? I am an 18-year-old and I don't know anything.
Do you think, looking back, that it was predatory in nature?
It feels predatory in nature. I mean, they want to say that, no, we're helping these people out and we're helping all these students go to college and everything like that. But kids don't understand compound interest rates. I feel like you should have, before you borrow the $10,000, you should have to go into...
Take a test.
Yeah, like before you're able to board the ship to go out to the Arizona, you're supposed to watch the video. It's like that. You should go into the little room and you should watch the video about compound interest.
You should know what you're getting into, but I don't think the burden should fall necessarily upon whoever it is that is issuing the loan. I think ideally, I get that 18-year-olds are 18-year-olds, and I didn't know any better when I was 18. However, you ideally should know what it is you're signing up for.
There's a big thing about just make sure you can afford the payments. That's a very big thing. And
horrible advice.
That's a horrible advice because you can always try to figure out how to make bare minimum payments. But I remember when we needed to refi our house and I had been paying on my student loans for 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
And I think I ended up getting out of college with about $20,000 in student loans. So, which is low compared to the average person now coming out of college. But I knew I had to pay these off. And so I was making payments. 7 or 8 years goes by and I look at it and I still owed $17,500. I'm like, wait a minute. I've been making $300 payments every month. What the heck? Mm-hmm. Why do I still owe all this money? And then in interest, I had paid $15,000 or something like that. But I had only paid down just such a small portion. So that's something that people don't understand is you're going to pay all this interest. So you're graduating with $20,000, but you're going to pay back way more than that.
What are some of the stats that you wrote down and brought in here with you? Because like I said, people are feeling as though the odds are stacked against them. And I completely understand it. However, at the same time, I would never want to discourage anybody from pursuing whatever it is that they consider to be their own personal goal. No matter how difficult it may be, you shouldn't want something to necessarily be easy. Mm-hmm. Of course, that'd be great if it were, but it should only really have to be possible for you. That is something that we always harped upon and use to keep ourselves moving forward in pursuing our own personal dreams. And it really hasn't been easy. We're still in the thick of it. We're still trying to make this happen for ourselves. We've come a very long way, but it has required so much of us. So what are some of the things that you have written down there? Because I see a lot of zeros and very large numbers.
Those are big numbers. Well, I was reading this study. It was a Yahoo News or Yahoo Finance put out this entire study of what is the American dream. And the American dream is marriage, 2.5 kids, dog, 2 vehicles, and a home.
So often what comes to mind. Yeah.
Right. So now they're saying that the American dream costs about $3.4 million because they're adding in health insurance, which is a huge portion of that, student loans, or at least the cost of tuition for 2 kids, and paying off your own student loans.
So really, this is just, it's geared more so towards somebody that's just getting started.
Right. This is the number that is being thrown out. This 3.4 million, and they're saying that kids cost upwards of $280,000 per kid. So when you tell someone who's 18, 19, 20 years old that has a bunch of student debt, hey, if you have a kid, it's going to cost you almost $300,000. They're going, I can't have a family. And then they feel sad.
And they don't know any better. Because I would disagree with that stat in particular.
I think that stat is bogus. I'm wondering what they're buying these kids for $280,000.
So 3.4 million in total. What is your initial reaction to that number? Because I would take issue with that.
I feel like the number is inflated, and I think that it's designed, whether it's political or whatever the angle is, I think it's designed to make people feel hopeless. Like, you can't have this anymore. You are a victim.
You think there's an ulterior motive with articles like this?
I think so. I think that it's inflammatory.
I would agree with you.
Yeah. So, but when you're young and you read that, you believe it. When we said that we were having, I think, Eli, our 4th kid, we had people say, oh, there goes another $250,000. That's what it cost to raise him. And I was like, I don't think so. We have a lot of hand-me-down clothes. So it's crazy.
It is. And it would be incredibly discouraging, especially if you don't know any better, which is part of the reason that we wanted to come on here to discuss this, because no matter how discouraging or, I guess discouraging is the perfect word, really. No matter how articles like this might make you feel, I think we can serve as living proof that it doesn't have to be easy. It has to be possible, but it is still achievable. Granted, we started this journey a few years ago and things have changed and evolved, but I think ultimately it comes down to a mindset and whether or not you can get creative enough to operate within the space that is ever evolving around you. You need to come up with a creative idea to hopefully sustain yourself and ultimately get ahead. It's tough to do, again, but it is possible.
Yeah, it definitely is possible. And this is still the land of opportunity. And I think Americans forget that because we're so spoiled by living here and having all this opportunity and freedom.
Preach.
It's a capitalistic society. You can start any business. There is no imaginary ceiling. And
you're able to have a dream here and pursue it. That makes us exceptional.
Yeah. The only time that there's a ceiling is if you decide I'm going to stay at a job and this is my salary and this is the cap for the salary. Okay, now you have a ceiling. But if as a business owner or somebody that's wanting to be innovative or an entrepreneur, there really is no limit. I mean, ask Elon Musk, you just get going.
Yeah.
So here you can do that. And I think you can talk to almost any outsider that comes in. I mean, I was listening to Dave Ramsey actually this week, and he was telling a story about a guy that came over from India 4 years ago. And he came over with $20 in his pocket. He now owns a home free and clear and has $3 million in the bank.
There you go.
And he's like, I came here and there was so much opportunity. And so he saw the opportunity where other people are seeing the roadblocks and the problems.
Yes.
So it's definitely possible. It is a mindset.
So flip side to those very videos that I referenced of that male and female who were expressing their frustrations, I do think, there's an absolute sense of entitlement amongst so many of us here in this country because we are so tremendously blessed with opportunity and the opportunity to dream for ourselves and to pursue it. Like I said, it makes our country special in that regard, and this is an exceptional place. It's why so many people want to be here. I understand that, and I think it's so important to not lose sight of that because there is a lot to complain about here in our country. But again, we are all so tremendously blessed to be here, to live in a free society where you are able to mold the life, that you're living. You're able to pursue those dreams, pursue your passions, and live however it is that you deem fit for yourself.
Now, I don't want to discredit people that are frustrated either. When you do have a teacher sitting in a car and she's can't purchase a home and she's paying 20 years of student loans and she's still working on the interest on those loans, there's definite frustration in that. And
I empathize with them. I'm not saying. All I'm saying is there are two sides to that coin. I get where they're coming from as well, and I do empathize.
And I think that they're frustrated because they do feel like they were sold a lie. They in school they were told, graduate, go to college, pick a career, become a teacher, and then you can live the American dream. She did everything right, and now she's feeling lied to or deceived. Mm-hmm. And I think in a way she was. So I understand the frustration in that, and the answer to that, I don't know, because we do need teachers and we do need firefighters and we do need police officers. And these are careers where it can be difficult, especially on a single income. So like one of the things I was reading was in 1960, the average annual worker made $5,600 a year, which to me sounded really low. So I started looking it up and I found a bunch of charts that said, it's about average there were a lot of factory workers and things like that in the 60s, $5,600 a year. The median home price was $11,900. And of course, in Washington State and New York, California, you're more in that $30,000, $40,000 range. But if you're in Alabama or Montana or somewhere like that, you were like $12,000, you can buy a home, which is insane.
Right.
You're making almost $6,000. So that home to price income ratio was 2 to 1. 2 years of working, you could pay off that house. Granted, if you had no other expenses. But let's say you had 2 incomes and you just put everything, you could pay off your home.
1 year. Yeah.
I mean, our grandparents owned their homes.
Many people did. Yeah. We were talking about family members that we have that purchased their homes in the 80s and how now the price of a brand new vehicle exceeds what it is that they paid for their brand new home 40 years ago. It's amazing.
Yeah. So now today in 2024, the median income is, I think it was like $78,000. The median home price, depending on where you are, it totally depends on the state. Alabama is still the cheapest state. Oklahoma is right around there too, and you can still pick up homes in the $250,000 range, which would be amazing for a lot of people.
That sounds crazy living here in the Pacific Northwest because you can't find much for $250,000 nowadays.
You can't find much under $5,000.
I was going to say $450,000.
Yeah.
A starter home now here in our region, in any metropolitan area, you're spending $450,000 for something decent.
Right, but if you're thinking about, I want to live in the suburbs, let's say you live in California or you live in Seattle or something like that, you're looking at more in that $750,000 to $780,000 range. So the median income to the median home price in some of these other areas where a lot of the better jobs are, where people want to live, you're now looking at a 10 to 1 ratio. You have to work 10 years without touching that money to pay off a house. So your dollar isn't going as far. That makes the American dream significantly more difficult.
So real estate inflation, that being for most people the largest expense of their lifetime, that has grown exponentially. The rate of inflation for the cost of a new home has grown tremendously.
Yep.
And your rate of salary in many cases has not.
Right. Yeah.
And it certainly
it's
has
definitely
grown
gone
tenfold.
up.
Right.
I mean, it actually has, but
Tenfold?
yeah, because if
what
it used to be
professions?
$5,600, now it's $78,000. I mean, the income has gone up, but the home prices.
But you're looking back 60, 70 years. I'm talking, we bought our last home in Southwest Washington State in 2012, and we paid $323,000 for it.
Right.
Granted, it was a short sale at the time, but I still get those emails from Zillow or some other real estate website. Our home there that we purchased for $323,000 12 years ago is now valued at $940.
Yeah.
So it has tripled in value, which is great if you're the owner of that home.
I mean, it's gone up $300,000 since we sold it in 2020.
It's beautiful. Who doesn't love home equity?
Yeah.
If you are making a new purchase of that same home, however,
Right.
and you're making $100,000 a year, not possible.
Right.
Can't do it.
Yeah. So that's where the frustration lies, is the dollar doesn't go as far. So yes, people were making significantly less in the 60s, but everything was cheaper. You could purchase a car for $5,000 or $6,000. Now, if you want a family SUV, we were just looking at Suburbans, they're like
$100,000.
Yeah.
It's insane.
It's insane. That's crazy.
It's funny that we referenced that home equity as well, because that was part of the gripe from those people, again, in the videos that I was watching, to where they were saying that, the older generation, older millennials, folks like ourselves, and people who are older than us, if they were fortunate enough to be a homeowner in the same period of time that we were, they came out ahead in many cases. And I think that we are definitely a good example of that. We moved here to North Idaho. We came with a good chunk of home equity from the sale of our home back in Southwest Washington, despite the fact that it continued to grow in value even after we sold it. We, according to them, are part of the problem, which again, it's a matter of perspective, and I get where they're coming from, because when you're trying to compete in a housing market where you have no equity to bring with you, you don't have a down payment, or you maybe don't have much of a down payment, everyone's moving into a given region with a good chunk of change from the sale of their home. Once again, it makes life difficult. So yeah, certain people, and this is so oftentimes the case, where it is a big part of it is luck, timing wise, and some people don't like the label of being lucky or fortunate. For us, we always say that we are very, very blessed, and we have been over time. Our timing has not always been great, but we have always, I think, done a good job of getting creative. When we purchased our very first home in 2007, not the best time to be buying a new home. We were upside down.
Yeah.
And shedding tears over the ownership of that home for many years, but we matrixed our way out of it and got creative. And I think that's really all you can do. There are always going to be factors that are outside of your control, and you need to do your best to mitigate those setbacks when you're smacked with them from time to time.
Yeah, for sure. Well, when we bought our house in '07, I think compared to your income, I would say it was probably a 4-to-1 or a 5-to-1.
I'll tell you exactly. I mean, at the time when we purchased the home, I think I was my first year as a cop. I think I made $60,000 ish, give or take. We paid $239 for that first home, and that was in 2007.
Yeah.
So
now, if you're talking a 10-to-1 ratio, let's say you live in Washington State now, that's about realistic. So if you are 25 years old and you're married and you have your student loans and you have your starter jobs and you're talking about starting a family and you start looking at homes, it just doesn't equate like it used to. And so I do see the frustration in that. Your home is supposed to be your biggest investment. And I think for all the generations before it was, and now young people are feeling like, I can never achieve that. I'm never going to be able to own a home. And it's so hard now because interest rates are through the roof, home prices are through the roof, and everybody's coming out of university with all of this debt because everybody's doing it. So when you're 18, 19 years old and everybody's borrowing money, everyone has $50,000 in loans. I think the average is $40,000 in student loans coming out of university.
it's crazy.
But there's other people that have $150,000 or $160,000. And once you get out of that 4-year university, let's say you want to go on to get better education, you want a master's degree to be a teacher that gets $10,000 more a year. You're now getting unbacked loans. These are private loans for graduate school. The interest rate's like 2% higher on these. So now you've got these different sets of loans, different higher interest rates over here, but this one's 4 years old, and when you're in graduate school, this loan starts being due and you have to make payments on it. It becomes really hopeless for these young people.
It does. And I hate to acknowledge that, but if you are the age of, let's say, Nevaeh, you were turning 18, it just seems like the odds are so stacked against you, and there's no clear path to victory, to getting ahead.
Because the path that they're teaching doesn't lead there. And the kids are smart enough to see that. They're going, wait a minute, that doesn't equate.
Right.
And we're still telling them that lie.
It's why I'm so curious about how it is that teacher in the video I keep referencing here, I wonder whether or not she is honest with her kids when asked for advice or guidance. Because it would be so incredibly hypocritical for her to be outside of this school, sitting in her vehicle, talking about how she did everything right, and then in turn going back in and directing and encouraging these young 16, 17, 18-year-old kids to do the exact same thing that she did.
Yeah.
But it's a tough spot. I don't have the answer. And again,
she's probably just telling them the same old thing. But I mean, there's people like Mike Rowe out there basically offering alternatives. I mean, he's screaming it from the mountaintops. Learn a trade. If you don't know exactly what you want to do, maybe consider trade school and learn to be an electrician, become a journeyman, and then have that. You don't have to necessarily do it, but you always have that fallback, and now you have this skill.
Listen, I want to take a second to thank the sponsor of today's episode, FlexiSpot. As you guys may be aware of, I've had a lot of lower back pain over the years, and that's especially bad whenever I'm forced to sit for extended periods of time, like at a desk, on the computer maybe, because let's be real, sitting around for multiple hours on end isn't good for anybody. Because of that, we started shopping around for a standing option desks for me. We saw some great reviews on the FlexiSpot E7 Pro, and so we picked one up about a month ago. I can set it easily at sitting height if I want to be in a chair, but with just the press of a button, I can raise it to a preset height to be comfortable for standing at as well. I was a little concerned that it'd be wobbly when raised up or that it would lack strength, but it's actually very strong. It holds up to 440 pounds. You can just tell this thing is very solid and well made. The E7 Pro offers you all of the great benefits of a standing desk at a very reasonable price. Plus, they offer you a 15-year warranty and free returns within 30 days. Melissa and I would both recommend the E7 Pro for your home, for your workplace, especially if you spend a lot of time sitting down. Trust me, your back will thank you. FlexiSpot provides all kinds of standing desks and ergonomic chairs to meet your demands. If you want a really stable frame for premium use, I'd recommend the E7 Plus with 4-leg design, and they also have an ergonomic chair with flexible adjustments for your back. Check out the FlexiSpot sale now and use our code GSL30 to get $30 off the FlexiSpot E7 Pro standing desk and the E7 standing desk series. We want to thank FlexiSpot for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. Now let's get back to our conversation.
And then even better, consider starting your own company.
Yes.
Instead of, obviously you have to be an employee and you have to learn, but then think about, if you want to be a plumber, think about owning the plumbing company, starting your own fleet.
Yeah.
So yeah, you do have to think
You
bigger
have to have
and creative.
That spirit of entrepreneurship for sure, I think in today's day and age. And it's amazing how all of these kids really are embracing, and it seems like the pendulum is being swung back to your more blue collar jobs, a lot of the trades, like you said, and just again, this spirit of entrepreneurship, I think is a great thing to come out of the ever changing and currently evolving state of affairs. It seems like it's not a bad way to go, and I hope that a lot of the narrative that is spewed by people, especially those counseling our young people, they have this embrace of exactly that, because the system's broken. It's undeniable. You can't say that doing things this very traditional way, the way that things have been done for the last, 50, 60, 70 years now, you can't say that that's necessarily the best option for young folks out there.
Yeah.
Given everything it is that we're laying out here. And again, I don't want to discourage anyone. It's very difficult.
Well, and they try to combat it with wage increases. Like, well, the answer is higher wages, but the answer is like try to control inflation. Inflation's going. So like the Federal Reserve will argue that it's 2% a year. And that was true for a while. That was kind of the average 1.8, 1.6, 2.1. And then all of a sudden we hit 2020. And that's when everyone really noticed things change. So the prices went up. In 2022, inflation was 10.1% in 1 year. There were no 10.1% wage increases. No. And then when there are forced wage increases, like what we just saw in California this week, now all of a sudden you see heavy layoffs because the business owners aren't making more.
It's a very feeble-minded solution.
Yeah, like just pay them more.
To a bigger problem.
Because
that
now
doesn't work.
Inflation just continues.
Yes.
So
now your Big Mac costs $20.
Exactly. And then everyone's like, why is that hamburger so expensive?
Well,
it used to be $2.95. Well, because they're paying the worker behind the counter $20.
Yeah, the 16-year-old cooking that burger is now making $20 an hour. So,
and I think it's important to know, okay, these are starter jobs and they're meant to be starter jobs.
Yes.
And maybe they shouldn't make what a police officer in a small town makes or what a teacher makes because they're starter jobs and they're meant to launch you. Like, keep going.
That seems like common sense.
Yeah,
it's amazing that there are people who advocate for such things. And like I said, I think it's a very simple-minded way of analyzing these situations. There's no way that somebody working at McDonald's, unless you're like a manager or a regional manager,
different.
Great, and you work your way up, fantastic. That's beautiful. Hey, good for you. That's fantastic. Yeah. But if you're just like I said, the 18-year-old who is making fries, I'm sorry, that's
it's a work experience job, and then you take that experience. And
you move on and you want to make more money. Great. You should want to maximize your earning ability. Right. You take the skills that you learned working at Burger King, McDonald's, you move on to the next place and you continue to grow. You amass more knowledge, you gain additional skills, and you become more valuable in the process. That's the way it should be.
You used to work at McDonald's.
I did. I worked at McDonald's for like 6 weeks when I was
6 weeks. That's it.
When I was 16 years old. Yeah, and you
realized real quick you wanted to move on.
I did. I realized very quickly that hey, working fast food is not the most fun job in the world, and there's certainly far more money to be made out there. And so I moved on, which is the lesson and takeaway that I think any young man or woman should have working a job like that. I didn't put up with it for very long. I would say stay longer than I did, but
I worked at Little Caesars Pizza.
yeah, people our age, I worked at a car wash for a number of years, and I learned, you know what? Hey, I can make good money if I'm willing to work really, really hard. And I busted my buns washing cars 8 hours at a time with like 0 breaks.
You know when I really decided that I needed to like move on and make more and like value myself was as a busser.
Yeah, that's it.
A busser at a diner with grumpy waitresses that did not tip you out.
Been there, done that.
I made $3.41 an hour, and I worked my butt off.
We sound so old saying stuff like that.
$3.41 an hour.
My first job, I think I was making like 4 something an hour. Yeah.
$4.20. It went up to $4.20.
Yeah, and like my paychecks were so inconsequential. Like I didn't even care about
like
my paycheck.
$87 after 2 weeks.
I was working for tips, and then at one point in time, much in the same way you busted your butt when you were young, I did as well. I worked 2 jobs. I worked 6 days a week, every day but Sunday, and then on Saturdays I worked the car wash in the mornings from 7 to 3, and then I worked at Outback Steakhouse as a busboy and a server from like 4 to whenever they let me go. So. Times have changed, and we have been there. We've been in the thick of it. We've been in the struggle. We've had the conversations, you and I, at a much younger age of like, hey, how do I make this work?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
There's never been a clear, definitive path. And I want to reiterate this. It's never been very clear. But we came up with a plan and we stuck to it. And like I said, we're nowhere near the age of completion yet. We do want to retire one day, and so we are still in the thick of it. We're still grinding. We're still working hard, but it is achievable. And
I don't want young people to feel like you can't do it, so don't try.
Yes.
That's such a dangerous thing to instill into the mind. So when you see studies like this saying you need $3.4 million when the average earner only earns like $2.6 million. So they literally tell you it's impossible. So when you're starting out, when you're our kids' age, you think this is impossible. Why try?
Garbage. I'm sorry. I disagree with a lot of those stats. And yeah, there are some costs that have grown exponentially. I think
groceries
for sure.
Cow.
And there's not a whole there. There is a lot you can do with that. You can curb your consumption. You can eat and drink less. And
go on a diet. No, I'm just joking.
If you have a family, of course, you need to provide for that family. But you can always mitigate those expenses based on your rate of consumption. You can.
Groceries are a hard one. Groceries are a really difficult one because you have to eat. You have to care for your family. You don't want to be making these ration meals because I think groceries are one of the things that have gone up. Besides health insurance is up like 40% in the last 5 years, which is insane.
And you need it in our country.
And you have to have it.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't have that provided by their job. And even if you do, there's still a portion of your paycheck being taken out.
And that's really hard on a lot of retired folks as well. This isn't something that this discussion has really focused on younger people and people our age and younger, but this is something that impacts our older generation as
My
well.
parents.
All the baby boomers, there are many of them that are struggling as well with this. So
yeah, once you're retired and you're on a fixed income, once all the costs start going up, groceries are up 30% since 2020. Yeah. That's insane. That's crazy.
Oh, everybody's feeling
that. That adds so much. And groceries aren't a small bill. There's a lot of people saying groceries for my family are my biggest bill. They're bigger than my mortgage.
Yeah.
That's crazy. If they even are lucky enough to have a mortgage.
That's a massive bill for us.
It is.
Huge.
It is our biggest bill. It's
our
groceries.
I don't want to say what we spend on a monthly basis to feed the 6 of us, but we have teenagers. Out of control, and it is by far higher than it ever has been in the past. It's not even close right now.
Oh yeah, and it's even when I used to be able to fill a cart and get out of the grocery store for like $100. And that was a big trip. Yeah. I feel like, ooh, I spent $150 this week. They say that grocery prices are up 30%, but I'm feeling like they're higher because I will buy the same stuff and now my bill's $350, $400 sometimes. Like if we're having people over and I know like I have to buy extra and it can easily be, I feel like groceries are at least twice what they used to be.
Oh, for sure.
And I
certain
think
things are way more than twice.
Like canned foods and
look at my granola bars that I used to buy all the time.
Oh yeah, cereal too.
They've tripled, quadrupled in some cases. It's crazy.
I mean, now you go there, you have $7, $8 boxes of cereal on the shelf. What the heck?
Yeah. Boxes of cereal used to be $3.
If that was expensive cereal too, there'd be 3 for $5 all the time.
My HBOs used to be like $3.50 a box.
Yeah, the General Mills would do at Safeway. They do the 3 for $5 on $5 Friday. That's like so cheap. So now Cheerios $5.50, $6, $7 a box. Sometimes it's nuts. So I don't really buy, again, like some of the numbers, there's so many numbers that I'm like, that doesn't seem right living in the
But
real
at the same
world.
time, we both also acknowledge that, it's difficult right now financially for so many people to make it. And again, we're not doing a great job of being very encouraging here. But
No,
again,
well, what I'm trying to say is that these people have a bitch and that there's truth and validity behind it. I don't feel like they're just getting on the internet
Yes.
and complaining. I feel like there's truth in it, but at the same time, I do think there's a way out.
Yeah.
So it's like, I agree with you, but like, what can we do and what can we show young people and what can we teach young people to give them hope? Because there is hope.
We have some of our own young people. What are the words of encouragement that you've given to them? I mean, this is kind of ironic because we're saying, no, it's great, it's possible. But at the same time, you know what? We purchased this property kind of as a hedge against many of the things that we are touching upon here for our kids specifically, to where if, they make the decision to build a life for themselves here, we've already taken care of the land. We, at the same time, are building multiple living spaces here in case they need a place to live as an adult. Let's say they get married, they're a young couple, they are struggling in dealing with many of the things that we're touching upon here, and you throw a young child into the mix, much like was the case for you and I when we were 23. We moved back in with your parents, and so
then I will steal my grandchild. I will lock the doors, and they can stay up in the apartment, and I will play.
What I'm saying is, it's easy to say like, no, it's possible, all that you can do it, but at the same time, we are hedging our bet and saying like, hey, if this doesn't work out and you aren't able to overcome a lot of these obstacles that the world is putting up in front of you, you can always come back here.
Now that could go two ways. You could end up with a kid that becomes very complacent, like, I can live at home. Mom and dad don't care. I'm going to live up in this apartment with the mountain view. Or it could also, it's going to depend on them and what they're made of and their fiber. And the other side is I can take some risks and I can start to build something, or I can try to save a bunch of money because I want to buy this house cash or something like that. That's my hope too.
Yes.
So I'm hoping that I don't end up with, I don't know, someone living in the pool house and that's as far as they go.
You don't want a failure to thrive type situation.
I don't want a birdie that won't fly.
Yeah, I'm with you. I want our kids to feel like they can swing big.
Yes.
And take some calculated risks and chances, and knowing that, hey, there is a safety net that mom and dad have provided.
But does the safety net prevent them from swinging big? Because when we decided to take that big old swing and jump into the water, like we literally could not fail because there was no safety net. Like I would say, we had burned the ships. There was no going back. We owned nothing, and there was nowhere to fall back.
Yeah.
So it was like swim.
But there was so much value in that. We talked about, we're painting ourselves into a corner here. It's do or die. It's sink or swim.
Put yourself in a position that you cannot fail. Was like the number one thing that went through my head.
So again, to go back to the beginning of this episode, we brought up that yesterday, was it yesterday? Day before yesterday, marked our 4-year anniversary of actually moving here to Idaho. Scariest decision we've ever made, scariest thing we've ever done with our lives. And we have poured ourselves into that. If you've been following along on the other side, on the good simple living side of things, you know this. But I just found it so interesting that all of this seems to be happening while we are, celebrating 4 years of making this dream work and making it happen for ourselves, for our kids. But it was, I'm with you. I really hope the kids have the opportunity to bet on themselves. And our experience here, if it's taught me so many important life lessons, but it really, I think one of the biggest takeaways has been that you need to have the utmost confidence in yourself and your abilities. And that doesn't mean that there won't be seeds of doubt that are sown, along the way, that you'll doubt yourself every step of the way, but despite it all, you just keep moving forward. And as long as you maintain that mentality over time, good things will happen. They will, as long as you are flexible, willing to adjust, willing to pay attention to your surroundings and the environment that you are operating in. It is possible, and it's so rewarding. I felt elation yesterday, taking note of what day it was, knowing that we've been here 4 years, looking around. It feels good.
No one wants it given to them.
You shouldn't want to give it to you.
Pride. Well, I mean, I think young people think they want it given to them. They're like, just give me.
People want easy. And again, to go back, it shouldn't have to be easy. It's possible and make it happen. It feels good.
So that's one thing I will say. when you look at what the American Dream was in 1960, it was a smaller house in the suburbs, usually a single family car. My grandparents had a single family car on both sides.
Many families did.
And they drove that car until they died. I don't know. They had that car forever.
Yeah.
I mean, they got one car and they kept it for 30 years, 40 years.
What was the car that you're thinking that comes to mind with like your grandparents?
Gosh, my grandma had a black Thunderbird.
My grandparents
And
had
it was a scary car.
a white Granada. That's what comes to mind.
Shoot.
Big, massive boat of a vehicle. You know what a Granada is?
No, but the Thunderbird was a big boat too.
Yeah, that was a thing back then, right?
Yeah, Thunderbird,
Big
Firebird?
old boat of a car.
Firebird? Thunderbird. What was that car with the bird on it?
Thunderbird? Firebird? Pontiac? I can't think right now. The
It
one your
was-
grandpa has?
No, it was my yaya's car. So it was black and then it had a red velour interior and she smoked, so it smelled like cigarettes in there. That was their car. Like that was what they drove.
And that wasn't uncommon. That was even true for us for a long period of time. We had a really cheap car. But the point you were trying to make
The point I'm
was
making is the American Dream was a very practical car. It was oftentimes a stay-at-home mom.
practical is the perfect word to summarize the American dream once upon a time.
Yeah,
Yes.
very practical, I mean, they weren't joining country clubs. They weren't going on lavish vacations every year.
1,000 square foot home in the
Camping,
suburbs.
maybe one trip to Hawaii in the life of the kids.
Good neighbors. Everybody's working 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. See you in church. We can bowl on Saturday nights.
Yeah, it was a little simpler. The spending wasn't so much. So now sometimes when I see these young people ranting on TikTok or whatever, there are some people that are just complaining, in my opinion. You'll see like a really young person and their mascara is running, the $50 mascara is running down their face and they're like sitting in their Tesla and they're like, I can't afford my apartment. It's a 2-bedroom apartment and I need this office because I work from home. And so I might need to get a roommate. And it's like, this is like a 21-year-old girl, and
Yeah,
she's
it's the
got,
real
and then
world.
she's got her latte. She's literally sipping on like a $7 drink. And it's like, okay, you have a spending problem. So now the American dream is a pretty fancier house. When people are
Extravagance,
more
yeah.
extravagance. One, sometimes 2 family vacations or couple vacations, Cabo, all inclusive.
Practicality is no longer a word that you would slap onto the stereotypical American dream.
Right.
Yeah.
Like we went to Disneyland one time and it was because my
Once.
dad had a business trip that was in California.
I thought you meant our trip.
No, we only went one time too. But as kids, we went to Disneyland one time. That was Disneyland.
Yeah.
Okay.
Drink
that
it
was
in.
Disneyland.
You did it.
Now, so many people are going, they get that pass and they're going every year or multiple times a year. And then they're wondering why they're in debt and why they can't pay off their credit cards and why they're struggling to pay their mortgage payments, but they feel entitled to this lavish lifestyle. And it's so easy to buy all these clothes on Instagram. You get the ads with the butt-friendly leggings and you're like, oh, that girl's butt does add to cart. So it's so easy now to spend, where I don't think our grandparents were spending in that same way. They would go to the grocery store. They would have their coupons, 30 cents off a ground round. Like they had their little, it was a different mindset. And the American dream used to be far simpler and more practical and more achievable than this. I think social media has made it really hard.
I was going to say, it's a different world, right? We have this, everybody lives this consumer lifestyle and we are bombarded with it, whether it be on our phones, on television, if you're still watching television, the world around you, because many people are falling victim to this sense of entitlement and this I deserve it.
And clothes and shoes. I mean, look at that. I sold real estate. A lot of people don't understand that. So before, I sold real estate on the side as one of my many, many side hustles. And when I would list a home and I would go in and take pictures, I would look at the people's closets whoa, there's a lot of clothes. So you would get these very middle class people and they would have so many clothes. I mean, literally probably $10,000 worth of clothing and shoes. Yeah. My grandma had 4 shirts. Do you remember your grandma's main outfits?
Oh, yeah. The polyester pants.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah,
And you would get
completely.
those on the TV, you dial it up, and you get khaki pair, you
Right.
get a black pair, you get a white pair.
There was no Amazon
No.
for you to peruse when
Yeah.
you were bored.
They wore the polyester pants. My grandma had a purple pair. And then she had these little slip-on shoes. She had like two. One was purple that matched the purple pants. And then they would wear the sweatshirts with the design on them. And then for a while, there was the turtleneck that it would have like the flowers, and then there'd be a big flower on the sweatshirt.
Yeah.
She'd have, like, my grandma had like 4 or 5 outfits. And she wore those outfits for 25 years.
So a big part of it is that we have all changed.
Right.
Is your point.
People have changed.
We are blessed to live in an amazing country once again, where we are surrounded by I mean, opulence. Let's keep it real, right? Look in the average American household nowadays. You've got chances are you have some type of a laptop or a computer that is valued at the very least multiple hundreds of dollars. We have electronics. We have $1,000 computers in our pockets at any given time. We have
our kids have $1,000 cell phone. Not our kids, but
not our kids.
But most people's kids have iPhones.
But you look at the vehicles that are driven, right? There, we know personally a lot of people who get a new vehicle every few years, even though that's never been what we've done. Pretty much every single household has massive flat screen TVs that are worth thousands of dollars
in multiple rooms,
us
included.
Multiple rooms with beautiful fixtures, and everybody likes to live.
In 1960, there was a single box TV in the living room.
This is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The times have evolved tremendously. Wardrobe was simpler. We had one car. Right now, it's not atypical for many households in the U.S. to have more cars than there are people living in the home. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like this is a commuter car and this is a work truck.
Everybody has toys. It's a lot of boats, a lot of just extravagance, opulence. We love it. Things have changed, and it's definitely impacted personal finances tremendously.
I think that if you showed a lot of 19, 20-year-olds the American dream of 1960 and said, this is what it's going to look like, this is your formula, and you got to stay in these parameters,
they wouldn't want it.
It wouldn't look very romantic to them. They'd go, that is not Instagram friendly. Like, what am I going to show
that
my
would be
friends?
an interesting experiment, a little social experiment to see whether or not these young kids coming up nowadays would find that appealing. Hey, you're gonna have financial security, but you are gonna live a very minimalistic, very simple lifestyle. Something that's always appealed to us for sure.
A guy's going to come to your door and sell you a vacuum, and you're going to use that vacuum till you die, and it's going to plug into the wall.
I don't know how many kids nowadays in the social media age where they're being peppered with people who maybe aren't that much older than they are, doing all of these crazy things, having all of these amazing experiences, living in these amazing mansions, nice cars, beautiful women, whatever the case may be. That is what is instilled in young people now as being sexy and desirable. And that wasn't always the case. And I think that's something that occurred even after we made our come up in adulthood. You know what I mean?
Right. And I think there are still a lot of people that do just want to own a home in the suburbs and
I hope so.
Have an SUV. I think there's a lot of people that are craving that. And they do because they're seeing these numbers and because they're still being fed this old formula that doesn't work in school. And they're realizing that doesn't equate. We're being lied to. Or they realize that after they get out of college. I think there was a thing saying that it was a college graduates with 4-year bachelor degree. What's your number one goal? And it used to be get married and buy a house. And now it's get out of debt.
It's sad.
So it's like you get out of college and your number one goal is to get out of debt. You're just starting your life and you're in debt. And the problem with this student loan debt is you can never get out of it. You can't bankrupt out of it or anything. It follows you. The only way it's forgiven is if you die.
Isn't Biden trying to help out with that though?
That's what they say.
Right? The whole thing just feels...
The campaign promises that never come true.
The whole thing just feels like a trap to me. And I get that we all don't want the same things in life. Hopefully, there are still many folks out there who want a very simple, happy, fulfilling life. Yeah. But I get that doesn't apply to everybody. But at the very least, I think that if you have any frustrations with what these seemingly insurmountable obstacles, again, that are being placed in your way.
Or at least that they're telling you are placed in your way.
That at the very least, yeah. But if you're buying into this narrative, hopefully you see the trap for what it is. And some people might get mad at me for referring to it as such. But I think, if you do go about things in the very traditional way, do this, and you will have this. I'm sorry, more oftentimes than not, it is a lie. And it's something that I think more people need to be more honest and transparent about.
Well, and I think the big thing about a lot of the lie that is college, I would say, I mean, there are obviously degrees that are necessary if you need to, if you want to be a doctor or a psychologist or anything like that. The problem with that is they can say, well, doctors get out of university and they're making good money and then they spend the rest of their life making really good money. Yeah, but doctors also have to go to school far longer and they're graduating with $200,000, $250,000, $300,000 in
It's so
student
insane.
loan debt. And then they have to,
I can't imagine.
and they don't start out making good money.
No, nobody does.
They have to do
usually.
their residencies
Yes,
and
it's a long road.
those bills are due.
Yeah.
So that's a very, very difficult thing. But the reality is that a lot of people coming out of university are not becoming doctors. Some are just meandering in like, oh, I guess this is where the wind blows. And they're doing cultural study majors. It's like you have to really think about what are you going to do with that? And how is that going to equate? Is it worth it? Is it worth the time that it's going to take? Is it worth the money that it's going to cost? Because when you get out of school and you have that loan, it counts against you for that debt to income ratio. So now all of a sudden, when you want to buy a starter home and you have a 20-year student loan, you have $300 or $400 or $600 or $700 a month counting against what you can borrow for a house.
Yeah.
With a 7% interest rate or whatever it's at now, 6%, 7% right now. That's crazy. You can't afford it. They literally don't qualify for the loan, even with 10% down. They can't qualify.
Yeah.
So you have to really think about, maybe I should, you have to have a plan. That's what we tell our kids. If you're going to go to university, have a plan.
And have a reason why.
Yeah, know what you're going to do. If you want to be an orthodontist, all right, kiddos, we will drop you off. We will go buy you the fun dorm stuff and you're going.
Yeah.
But if you're like, I don't know, maybe I'll do like sociology and I don't know what I'm going to do with it, then maybe consider something else.
Move up into the apartment.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Get in the apartment and get your head on straight. No.
We are not experts when it comes to any of this. This is just expressing our opinion based on our own personal life experiences. I know many of you out there have experiences of your own stories. So if you have any advice, maybe for some younger folks or even some older folks maybe that are approximately our age, go ahead and leave it down in the comments. If you are watching on YouTube or listening on one of the other platforms, we appreciate you being here. Take part. Chime in with your own personal opinion. Let us know where you stand on this thing. But it was just an interesting time to bring this up with our ever-evolving personal American dream here in the last 4 years that we have been pursuing. The American dream for so many includes a white picket fence and like a dog of some kind. So are we going to replace Kenji?
Oh,
did you have anything else on this before we move on?
No. I've seen a lot of people feeling very hopeless on the internet. And I just think that it's very important to have them challenge these numbers and maybe take them with a grain of salt and then know that the American dream is still alive and well. We just have to get a little more creative to find the path to get there.
Amen.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with you. Are we getting another dog?
I don't know. It seems like you really are.
Well, you've been looking into it.
have.
I feel weird about it. Not to close it out with Kenji once again, but given that that's how we started, I feel a little weird about it just because this is so new and so fresh. And
yeah, we can't really decide. There's different breeds
tough.
we've been talking about. And I mean, we feel a little bit like we're cheating on Kenji, but at the same time, it's important for the kids. Eli is still young. He's 9 years old. And if we get another dog now, it's going to be an old man by the time Eli is out of here. And he deserves to grow up with a dog. He loves animals and he loves dogs. And so I do want to get him another one. And we're just trying to decide on breeds. We're talking about golden retrievers, something we've never had before, but they seem really fun and very high maintenance. But I think that could be really fun. But of course, our hearts always go back to Shar-Pei. So
we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
Go ahead and leave your suggestions down below on that as well. We'll see what.
I'm going to say get a rescue dog. So I will say this about the rescue dog thing. I do love the idea of getting a shelter dog or a rescue dog. With all of the animals that we have here, it's really hard, especially in our area, because a lot of the dogs that are surrendered to the rescues in this area are surrendered because they are chicken eaters. Like most of the dogs are like, this one eats chicken. And that's how they end up there. And that's totally fine if you don't have animals. But we have baby sheep wandering around and rabbits and chickens and cats and small children. And so we can't really risk having a dog that's going to come here and kill our livestock.
Yeah.
So we need to start with a puppy for sure.
It is a concern.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead and let us know what you think down below in the comment section. We so love and appreciate you guys. Thank you for being here once again. We're still reeling with everything that's been going on here.
Yeah,
So
I think we've been kind of scatterbrained.
we
even,
have been.
Even on this, I feel like my brain I'm so tired. I've just been staying up so late, and
we had a long week, and it's just been very interesting. A lot of new emotions to grapple with, and it's just been kind of weird. We keep bringing Kenji up every day, and of course that's natural. This is still very new, and time will progress, and we will move on. But it's just been a very interesting experience all around. We're so grateful for the time that we had with Kenji, like I said earlier, and big thanks again to you guys for all the well wishes. It's just it's going to take some time to move beyond and for us to kind of reset and find our new normal. So thank you for putting up with us in this period of time where we are
we're
reacclimating.
Totally scatterbrained.
Yeah. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps us out. We have exciting things that are happening here on the podcast side of things. Hopefully we'll have an update for you very soon. That is something that we have been working on behind the scenes. So stay tuned for that. We will keep you updated. We are talking with a few potential guests that we are really looking forward to hopefully booking. Really hoping that some of these pan out. It would be so exciting. But again, big thanks to you guys for being here. New Good Simple video out on Saturday, and we will be back here, New World Old Soul, with a new podcast next Wednesday. Anything else from you?
Nope, that'll do it.
All right. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you then. Take care.
Let the sun sink good and low. There ain't no telling where we'll go in the black, hot 90-some Chevy.